Hello, yes, this is my voice. My name is Tom. Have you heard of the Chinese room?
Oh, stop that. We're not even doing that one. Hello and welcome to Filling in the Gaps. I'm Justin.
And I'm Darren.
And today we're going to be discussing a game called We Were Here 2.
Yes.
T-O-O. So, if there's any confusion, that is the one we are discussing. And we have already put out an episode on the original We Were Here. So this is the sequel. There will be a third one. At least on the Steam page it says there will be a third one coming out.
Early next year, or early 2019?
Sometime 2019 anyway, yeah. So here we are. We wanted to talk about it again. It is, again, the same world, I guess. It is, again, a co-op game where we each have half the information and we have to work together to solve the puzzle. It is fun, right?
Yeah, it's
I
fun.
think we would definitely recommend it. I think it would be very, very difficult to play with a stranger, but it is a lot of fun to play with a friend. I don't know that there's much to say about it, except that it is roughly about $10 base price. It came out February of 2018.
Yep.
I don't know, is there anything that you wanted to add?
I mean, without spoilers, yeah, it's kind of hard to discuss, really, because as soon as you start off, you start off in a puzzle. But yeah, it kind of, I mean, if you've played the first We Were Here, or if you haven't played the first We Were Here, go and play it, because it's totally free as well. And yeah, this is a continuation of the story. You find a weird mansion somewhere very cold. I think it's like the Arctic or the Antarctic. And the first game, you're two friends who get separated in this mansion and you got to solve your way through it to the end. And this is kind of the same. It's almost like maybe you're part of the same expedition, but you've entered through a different wing of the house. Or maybe this is a later expedition. I'm really not sure.
I would say probably we are, because at the beginning, the animation shows four people.
A bunch of people, yeah, that's right.
So I think that they're trying to say that possibly we're part of that same group, and that we broke off into 2 and 2. In the first game, our titles were Librarian and Explorer. Yeah. In this one, it is Lord and Peasant, which Darren was the Lord first, so he often is referring to me as Peasant. Over the chat. That is one thing that I do want to talk about, is the one downfall of this game, I would say, is the walkie-talkies in this game.
At least for us.
At least for us, we experienced a huge lag every time.
And we were playing on like a server with like a 24 ping. It's like, there's no reason for any lag whatsoever.
So we're not exactly sure what was going on, if it was the game, if it was us, but I would hold the button in for the walkie-talkie for probably 30 seconds before talking, and even then sometimes he would tell me that my message got clipped.
Yeah, I caught the last word that you said. Or sometimes nothing. I would see the one good thing is it lights up. I don't think the walkie-talkie lights up in the first game when you're speaking. But so this, you know when someone's trying to talk to you because it lights up.
Because that was a huge frustration in the first one.
Yeah, because you're both talking at the same time. Yeah. But, I mean, if it works for you, great. And that's how the game should be played. And that's how we wanted to play it, to be honest. But in the end, we opted for Steam Chat because it was just too much of a pain to find a fix for it. Why bother? We're just going to do it with chat.
And that's where I think, again, playing with strangers, that would be even more frustrating.
Oh, yeah, because you would just give up. Oh, that guy's an idiot, or he doesn't know how to use the walkie, or his computer is broken. Yeah, okay, I'll just find someone else. Yeah. But yeah, so Steam Chat, Discord, TeamSpeak, whatever, choose your poison and use it.
And I think that's kind of it for the spoiler-free section. We both recommend it. Have you been checking it on sales at all? Because we got it early on, so we didn't really even worry about sales, I think.
Sales for what, sorry?
This game, We Were Here Too.
I got it at like half price, I think.
Okay.
And also, it was bundled last month, and it was part of a Humble monthly, so if someone...
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was in the last one, so like in 2018, so...
But we had already gotten it by that
had
point.
it and played it. But yeah, it's worth $10. I mean, that's the thing that what we were talking about. We're quite thrifty when it comes to spending on games, but this is definitely one of the few games that I would say when the next one comes out, I'm going to jump on it as soon as it comes out because I want to see it, because they've proved that's 2 great games in a row that they've released. Maybe the third one's going to be terrible, but I really don't think so. I think they've got this is their niche, and they've kind of nailed it quite well.
Okay. So, if you don't want anything spoiled, come back and listen later. If you have already played We Were Here Too, then feel free to stay and hang around.
Yeah.
Okay, listeners, welcome to the spoiler-rific section of We Were Here Too. Let's start with, well, the start. So
that's what it's called. It doesn't have a
It is called
a name
Start.
for
The first room.
The start.
There is a slight issue with creating rooms where, I don't know, I had trouble finding you in a room and you had trouble finding me in a room. We seemed to work it out. I'm not exactly sure how we worked it out, but it just seemed like all of a sudden now we know how to do it. But it did take a little bit of figuring out the rooms. I think some of the labeling was a bit confusing, like find a friend versus... I don't know, it was like find a room, but there didn't seem to be a way for you to simply invite me to join the game like we would with some others.
And I think in We Were Here, that was how I could just click on your Steam icon and just say invite to game.
I'm not sure, because I think we still had to do the password and room name. I think we still had to do that.
Okay.
But anyway, we figured it out. Once we figured it out, we were quite happy.
You had an issue with clicking on the buttons as well. Like your mouse seemed to be like not...
Yeah, so the first time we were playing, I'm not sure what was going on, but the cursor was never over exactly where I should be pushing. It wasn't hitting the tab where it was supposed to be on the screen. So, for example, it was like...
Just like a couple of centimeters off.
And so I had to kind of guess as to where it was, but that was only the first time. From every time after that, it was fine.
Fixed?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't really an issue. There was an issue of joining, because the first 2 times we played, I messed up the joining the room because I was just supposed to click ready, but there is like a checkbox, which I needed to check for the password, so I thought I needed to check for saying yes, I'll be the peasant, or yes, I'll be the lord, and that was an issue at the beginning. But it's one of those things once you figure it out. But it just, something about their commands, the way they've set them up, is a little bit awkward until you understand how it works. But the game is worth it. We persevere, and here we are in the start. Now, the weird thing is, as the game is loading, if you are playing with somebody totally new to you, stranger, whatever, it basically is working like an open channel. So you can talk to the person.
Yeah.
If you also have Steam chat open, you now are hearing an echo because you're hearing it from 2 different channels, essentially. I always saw the statue of the peasant kind of with his arms out and begging, and you always saw
the Halo one, like the guy in the ski mask with the snow visor, and he's holding up his walkie-talkie. He's got the halo behind him and the radiating beams outwards.
See, I would get that, but only for a second before it would take me to the other one.
Yeah, I stayed with that the entire time, until it loaded. I don't know why.
But you did see, I sent you...
you sent me the picture, and I've seen that statue before.
Because it's in the Lord's room,
Yeah, but it certainly wasn't my loading screen.
But that was always my loading screen. I would get the Explorer with a bit of purple on him for like 30 seconds, and then it would jump over to the other one.
Never got that.
All right. Well, now the start. Let's go to the start. So... I don't know, which side would you like to do it from a perspective, so that you were the lord and I was the peasant, or you want to do it the other way around, or does it not matter to you?
It doesn't matter to me. I played as the peasant most recently, so and you played as the lord most recently, so you be the lord and I'll be the measly peasant, sir. Please spare me.
That sound is my hands rubbing together. Yes. Good. Let's talk about it then. Yeah. So, the Lord walks in, and I have kind of a lot to see. There are alcoves, there are symbols above them. A lot of these same symbols you'll recognize from the previous game.
Yep.
And doors that I can't open, and some statues, and that's about it.
Coffins.
So you don't really see what's going on. But the peasant sees...
Well, yeah, I go in the room and I have almost like a combination lock dial thing with all the symbols that you're looking at in your room. Like, you can't actually touch anything or move anything as the Lord, but I've got these things that I can move around. It's a pretty clever puzzle, and it's got... I don't know if we found the secret for that room too quickly, because, well, in the Lord's room, you've got the red symbols in the sewer grate, which open the door to the light switches, which... obviously you've played it because you're listening now, but yeah, you need to hit all those light switches to be able to escape together. But yeah, I wonder if that you actually need to open that door. I wonder if we were doing something wrong, because we tried that room for a long time just with the regular symbols above the coffins, and we weren't getting anywhere. But it seems like you have to get that first light switch. Maybe.
I don't understand what you
know
mean.
What I mean? So I didn't see the red. When I
for a long time, we tried so many combinations. You were telling me things and saying, "Oh well, I've got this symbol," and I was saying, "Well, look, I've got that on 2 dials, so I don't know which one it's going to go on." And so that was a bit of an issue. And
because when you were Lord, what symbols were you telling me to put in? Like, where were you finding your symbols? Because there's 5 coffins in that room, and they all have symbols.
No, I think there are only 3 coffins.
No, there's 5. There's 3 on the bottom part of that mezzanine, and then there's 2 on the top, where the door is, actually. There's 2 coffins up there, and they've got symbols on them.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't think I used the ones above.
Oh, so it's the 3 symbols on the bottom. That's where mistake.
We stumbled with this one for a while. Luckily, it wasn't timed in any way. But what I think is really clever about this game is oftentimes one room will hold more than one puzzle. And so we may think we're done, but we're actually not done. And that was set up very well in this first room where we got it and then nothing happened for me. As the peasant, nothing happened. And that's because on the Lord side, as I found out, there's another door that opens. So a door opens, you go in and you get a bit of lore from a book, and there's a switch that seems to do nothing, which of course we'll talk about later. And then you come back out, and there are these alcoves. Some have coffins in them, some don't. It's not really clear what you're supposed to be doing at this point, but because we had already played it before, I knew that I needed to find ones with coffins in it, and I just told you what the symbols were. And I think even the first time that we replayed and had swapped roles, so I was the Lord, I think the symbols were the same. I think we got lucky, and you were telling me, I know what symbols they are already, which was fine until we tried to do a more kind of speed run the second time through, and then they changed completely on you. Because I don't think that first set ever changes. So I think that's where you got lulled into the sense of you knew it already, but you didn't. So for the Lord, it's kind of 2 puzzles, but for the peasant, you were looking at the exact same kind of slots combination twice, just done differently, with a lever to kind of reset it if you needed to.
But then...
Oh no, or was the lever to open the door?
It was to... No, I had to pull the lever to unlock your door.
Okay.
And then I had to pull it again to unlock your other door. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you have to get the first light switch, because then it's kind of setting it up like, try and find more of these, because you're going to see them later on and they're going to be really important.
Though I would say from the peasant side, my first time through, I had no idea they were that important, because
I was just pulling them.
They were just kind of randomly there. It was, I think, from the Lord side, seeing how a door opens and there's nothing in it except for the book and that leads to that being more important. As the peasant, I was wandering around wondering, what are these for? Are they doing anything?
Yeah, me too. I was like, I pulled it, and then I'm looking around like, did something unlock? Did something drop? Like, something changed? Nothing. Like, kind of mystery. Yeah, so after the catacombs, you head into... This is where the game really started for me, like, visually, because this next room is beautiful and amazing, and they've really upped their game from, like, the last installment.
And this one is referred to as the Ritual.
Yeah.
And as the Lord, you walk in, is a huge room with many, many doors. A couple doors going off to an alcove. There's a gazebo in front of you. There's all kinds of things to look at. And as the peasant...
you walk in and it's just kind of a big circular room with an alchemist's symbol on the ground. What's that thing called? It's called the alchemist's whatever, and it's got all these weird symbols, and it's candles that are not lit yet all around, and then there's a single exit that's blocked. There's also a red and blue banners, red banner off to one side, blue banner off to the other side.
I will admit that first time I saw those banners, that was really intimidating because I thought I was going to have to explain that entire banner to you.
Right. I
didn't realize what we were going to do with it, which was still a little tricky, but much more manageable than what I feared.
Yeah, because I mean, even the fact that describing stuff when you don't have a visual aid, like, it's like that game that you can play when you're teaching a class, like, okay, there's a sun in the top left corner, there's a house in the middle, and the door is open, and there's a car. I didn't do too bad for what you described to me. You described it pretty well. So you're like, there's a row of 3 diamonds, there's another row of 4 diamonds, there's this, and there's like this crowbar thing, and then there's 4 little diamonds at the bottom. And when I became the
The peasant.
The peasant. I was like, yeah, man, I didn't do too bad. Or Justin didn't do too bad explaining that to me.
Yeah, but that was tricky because it was hard for us to know what was going on. There are essentially 3 puzzles here.
4. No, there's 3. Yeah, the candles, the floor, the banners. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then for the Lord, there becomes 1 more.
Yeah.
But that's a lot going on all in one room. So we didn't really know what we were doing first. I think you saw the book in the Lord's room and realized
I knew right away
that must be something important.
Yeah.
And that's pretty straightforward, that one. Put them in order, and quite frankly, the book tells you. I thought that you were looking at candles and actually having to see which one was the shortest, which one was the longest. I didn't realize the book was literally telling you
this one's first.
This one is, yeah.
Oh, I thought the same. Because when I was playing as Lord, I was telling you, are the candles like at different like lengths? Just put them in order of first to last. But then you wouldn't even need me for that puzzle then, because you could just be like, all right, this one was lit first because it's the lowest down, and
well, that's why I thought that's what you saw, and I wasn't seeing that. I didn't realize that the book would just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you do the candles. That for us, that was pretty straightforward, pretty quick. And then the banners took us a little while to figure out exactly what was going on. And I like that one a lot.
I like the banners one, yeah, because it's something completely different. It's odd. It really reminded me though, and I wonder if I'm just barking up the wrong tree, but in Mist Exile, which you haven't played.
No, because I've only played through the first one.
In Mist Exile, there's a banner room right at the end. Spoilers for Mist 3. It's not really a spoiler. There's just like a bunch of banners with symbols on them. The kind of, even the style of like the red with the gold outlines, it really reminded me of the banner room from Mist Exile, which is now available on Steam for the first time. There you go. Plug for Mist 3. Great game.
Okay, so let's talk about the banner. So it's a great puzzle where you have to put the pieces together to make one shape. Though you very quickly were referring to them as scorpions, which I think worked well. It does kind of match most of the shapes you're going to get. And so then it started to become... I don't know, you were describing things as such detail, and I was going, well, I'm not seeing that at all, and then I realized, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and the fact that I have to put the pieces together. And so, once I figured that out, and then there's also an issue of, like, the lines have to connect in a certain way, so you have to do that. But once we got the first one, then the second one was quite easy. But it was a matter of, what do we do? Because as the peasant, when you first arrive in that room, you can't even touch the banners, you can't even get close to them.
Yeah, you can't do anything.
So that totally changes, and then seeing everything light up is pretty amazing, and knowing that you're on the right track. So you get through that, and then the third part was really simple for us.
Draw a line on the ground, yeah.
Yeah, it's basically there, and then you just have to describe the symbols. The toughest thing being when you describe symbols, making sure that you're speaking from similar points of reference, or seeing things in the same way. So that often becomes an issue where Darren sees things in these kind of ambiguous shapes that I don't, or vice versa. And so that can be a bit of an issue where we have to go, okay, I think I understand what you're trying to say, but now tell me what you're actually literally saying. Don't give me a figurative representation of it. What is it really? But yeah, that's a pretty straightforward one.
Yeah, that's a good level. It's probably one of my favourite levels, actually. I really like the ritual chamber. And good bits of story in there as well, like when you, as the Lord, when you find the books, like we're reading the books to each other, like it's a love story, basically 2 love letters from either side of the building that we're in, and it's a tragedy. Yeah.
A love letter?
Well, they're separated and they're one of them's dead, so...
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, they're both dead. Well, are they?
I don't know. I think the Lord's side is a little crazier. But
yeah. No, the Lord is, he's off his rocker, for sure.
It comes into the next level, doesn't it? So that you, as the peasant, walk into a stairway. And you see a book, you read the book, but I will also get to... is it this part where I get the book? It is this part.
Yeah.
Once we've accomplished this part, then a secret door opens up, which we need for one of our mystery
light
switches.
Yeah.
And in that, we see that it is a ritual about kind of everlasting life and killing in order to maintain that life. And so that gets quite dark on the Lord's side very, very quickly from there. Stairwell. Tell us about the stairwell.
Yeah, I mean, when you were first on those stairs, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in a room, nothing's happening. You're like, oh, I'm dying. As soon as you step in, nothing happens. It's just stairs, but then you're blocked by a fence, which, to be honest, you could easily climb around. I don't know. Yeah, it's not
in real life.
In real life, you could easily get around that. But then, yeah, it's like all of a sudden Justin steps in the room and it's like, boom, the floor starts disappearing. And then there's a giant pit of lava beneath you. You're like, okay, well, start doing something. And yeah, so basically you've just got it's like an unfolded box. So you're looking at, was it 7? No, it's 7. Yeah, a D6 has 7 sides, Darren. 6 sides of a cube, and then you've got
which it took a little while to figure out. I kept telling you
I was oriented right. Yeah.
I was looking at a cross, and I was telling you I was looking at a cross, and it wasn't until you explained to me that you had cubes on your side that I realized what that shape really represented.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When you can't see what the other person is looking at, you have no idea. So for all I knew, there was a pattern that he needed to step across, as was one of the puzzles in the first we were here. But no, this one is totally different, and I think much, much more challenging, especially with that time.
It's timed, and I have a compass rose on my cube. No, sorry, you have the compass rose on your cube, which always points north. But as the peasant, the compass rose north is sometimes facing east or west or south. And then, so now you either tilt your head around to orient yourself in the right direction or be very spatially aware.
Yeah, you have to visually represent it in your mind and then tell the person. Essentially, our trick was to say, okay, going north, go up, and it's going to be this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And try to get those 3. We figured if we could get 3, we pretty much had it.
Yeah.
And that pretty much worked.
If it was all
they
6, could have been really rough with us on that puzzle, and they chose not to be. That's a conscious decision to do that, and I'm very happy about that, because they could have had almost nearly identical cubes, but like, but this one's slightly...
Some were pretty close.
Some are, but generally, you don't have to describe the entire cube. Like, you can describe just one part of the cross.
I would say that it is tough enough, because as the Lord, I found you have
7?
I think 7. And then as soon as you've placed the correct one, you actually have to run out and find where the open door is and find another 7 rooms.
Yeah.
Or sorry, another 7 cubes in another room. And then you have to do it yet again a 3rd time. Meanwhile, as the peasant, the stairs are slowly disappearing beneath you. And there's nothing you can do except hope that the Lord gets there quick enough and finds the right cube quick enough.
Yeah, exactly.
One issue that we did have here was a kind of mechanic issue, which is the cube having to kind of hit it twice, click on it twice to get it to kind of throw away from you so that you could go and pick up another one. It did take a bit of time, which slowed us down a bit.
Yeah. And also, if you drop that, like if you double click it by mistake, you drop it and then you have to wait for it to, you can't pick it up off the ground. You have to wait for it to respawn in the place, which, don't get me wrong, like, it's not realistic. Who needs realism right now? If you had to remember where you dropped everything, for example, the weapon room, which we'll talk about later, that would be insane. That would be, I'm happy that they've got that mechanic where if you drop it, it just magically respawns in the same place that you picked it up from.
Yeah. So I think it's, 3 sets of gates that you have to get through, and then sigh a huge breath of relief as the peasant as you get onto the landing. And now it is the Lord's turn for something a little scary, because we enter what is called the promenade. Up a lot of stairs, and then into a room where the wall starts closing in on you.
Yep.
There are 4 sets of armor and a crest above each one, and what they're holding in their hands is different. So this is one where I, as the peasant, made a huge mistake. Go ahead and tell them.
So when I was a lord, I must have died. How many times did we die in that level? Well, how many times did I die in that level?
Well, how long is the level? 2 minutes? And
we gave up on it, put it that way.
Yeah.
One night. I mean, we must have done that for 10, 15, I don't want to say 20, but definitely more than 10 times.
Oh, I know we did it more than that because,
really?
Well, there were the times where we just had to give up because the thing was, once the wall passed a certain point, you couldn't see the first 2 anymore.
That's right.
And so if we let it get that far, then you said, we may as well just give up.
Yeah.
I would still run around and try to randomly throw stuff in, but it just never worked.
Yeah. So here's me, like, getting crushed to death, screaming, shut down all the garbage disposal units in the what district?
He did say that once.
Did I say that once?
Yeah.
What was it? No, not the district. Was it shut down all the... Oh, on the detention level, that's right. But yeah, so then when I was the president, I walk in, and as soon as the wall starts moving, I realise that there's this massive ship's wheel right in the centre of the room, which starts spinning, and I'm like, oh, click. Oh, that stops the wall from coming in. And then I can rewind the wall, and then you can get to see the... Yeah, because, I mean, you've got pretty much 10 seconds to describe 2 sets of armour. It's impossible.
Fast, yeah.
But...
We did it.
We did it.
We did do it, yeah.
And that is something there you go, have that as a challenge. Like, see if you can finish the promenade without turning the ship's wheel.
Yeah. Good luck. It's not easy.
It's not easy.
Especially because...
And it was the wall was right on my nose. Like, I was seconds away from dying, but we pulled it off. I can't believe that. Now that I know that you can actually... You're not supposed to do that. Like, wow, man, we totally brute forced that and killed it.
There's a real issue with the number of things you have to identify. The
coats of arms, or the banner, whatever it is, of the family.
The animals, I don't think that it's that difficult, but it is that difficult to do within seconds, as you were having to do. It is difficult to remember which hand things are in. But I think the most difficult thing is the fact that some of the weapons look almost identical.
Yeah.
And so that becomes a bit trickier. It's very easy to identify people by hair color, by what they're wearing. But when it comes to something like, well, this sword is long and it kind of has serration at one point. Oh, there are 2 that have serration at some point. Oh, this is a double-headed axe. Oh yeah, well there are 2 of those, right? So you have to describe it even more in even more detail, right? So you would take something like the double-headed axe and say, oh, this one looks like it has a mace in the center because we already identified the mace, and so we were able to do that. But that made it very, very tricky, but we did end up doing it. I think my mistake in being the peasant the first time was the fact that I could go into the room ahead of time.
Right.
So I could go through, I could look, I could tell you everything that I had in my room, and I tried the ship's wheel at that point. And when it didn't work, I just assumed that
cosmetic.
It was cosmetic. We didn't know until we saw a ship's wheel later that they actually do have a function. And I think the fact that we were always under a pressure of the first 30 seconds, I needed to try and grab 2 to 3 things if I could. I didn't stop to look.
Yeah. I couldn't help but notice it. But yeah, so anyway, it's a decent room after that. It becomes quite easy. But again, this is my only... I don't know. I don't want to call it a criticism of the game, but we are fortunate in a sense that we've played role-playing games and fantasy games and are into like fantasy books and TV shows and movies and stuff. So we're quite, when I say, oh, it's a halberd, you know what that is. Or if I say, it's a gladiator sword, you know what that is. Or when I say it's the Rambo knife, or it's the, whatever. When you can actually name the weapon, it's a mace. Like a Morningstar, no, like the mace, not with the chain. It's like, can you imagine that if you had no idea what these weapons were called? Oh, it's... And even the axes is like, because we know like one of them's a one-handed axe, one of them's a two-handed axe. So it's like actually having terms to put to these kind of arbitrary weapons. I mean, the shield's not so much. We're like, oh, it looks like an X, or it's a circle, well, it's a normal shield, or it looks like an arrowhead upside down, okay, that. But the actual weapons, especially the swords, man, oh my god, there's like, I don't know, maybe 8 different kinds of swords. Thankfully, you only really, for our playthrough, thankfully, we only needed to usually place 1 sword, or maybe 2 at the most. The others were like, the axes or the maces. But yeah, tough room, and I'm gonna throw my 2 cents in and say virtually maybe a game breaker if you're playing with someone that's not a friend. Like, if you're playing with a stranger, I can't see you getting past that level, to be honest. Like, what do you think?
I think in particular, if you're playing, I think one of the regions is Europe. Imagine trying to play with somebody who's speaking in English and it's not their native language.
Sure.
That would make things definitely much more complicated, but I think that that's true of any of these. I think with this one, knowing that you can take as long as you need because of the wheel, I don't think is as big a deal anymore. If you could make it through the other stuff and get to this point, if you figure out the wheel and you figure out that you have basically all the time you need, I think you're totally fine on this one. I don't think this is the deal breaker one. I think that one is coming up probably next, actually. There are 2 that I would say that would have stopped me, and the next one would probably be one of those. So
stained glass windows?
No.
Well, that's next.
Yeah, that's next, but that's all part of the same room. No, the stained glass windows, what is referred to as as, I believe, the council. That's pretty much just a matter of being patient enough to describe everything you need and put them in the right place. It's, at least for me, it seemed very straightforward. I have 3 empty spots, and you told me you had 3 windows. That pretty much goes right there. And I saw that I had, what was it, 6 or...
6.
Yeah, 6 sets of things, and I quickly realized what we needed to do.
Yeah.
I think with that, it just gets frustrating that the other person doesn't see what you see, and so they don't know the fact that if you tell me the king, I only have 2 kings, tell me, is he facing left, is he facing right, or does that soldier have a long beard or a short beard? And they're, honestly, they could both be kings. I don't know. We just identified one as a king because he had an obvious crown, and the other one is soldier because...
he's in armor.
Yeah.
But no, I like the council level. And also, I don't know if you noticed this, but when you were playing as the Lord for the second time, did you notice that the picture's details... quality is different? Like, when I was the Lord, I'm describing something, and you're like, is it this color? Or is it this, can you see this thing? Like, I couldn't see it on my stained glass window, but when I was playing as the peasant, I could see everything in very nice detail.
I think it's just a matter of the way that they are quote-unquote lit in the game. I feel like the ones in the Lord are maybe not quite as bright, and you have had an issue before with the brightness of your screen and things. So I think I still didn't really have much problem. I think the only thing that I would have noticed is the lion's head. Sometimes I wasn't sure, depending on where I was looking at. I had to move around sometimes to see if it was more a grayish color or if it was a gold color. But otherwise, I didn't notice that much of a difference.
All right. Okay. Yeah, so stained glass windows, pop them in.
It's just kind of as the peasant running around.
There's a lot of running.
A lot of running around as the peasant.
Yeah.
And so it's like, come on, just get to it. And it's like, you don't realize, right, until you switch to the other side.
Oh yeah, because that room for the Lord is like, all right, it's 3 windows. Like, come on, let's go to the second one. You're like, I haven't even finished the first one.
Yeah, I've got to find it. I've got to run clear to the other side of the room.
Exactly.
Which you don't realize how big that room is until...
Yeah. Oh, until you have a recovering broken hand, and you're like, ow, this is actually quite painful.
Well, I was going to say until you switch roles.
Yeah.
Right? So, as the peasant, that huge chessboard thing is kind of in the center, and you're running around that the whole time. Whereas, as the Lord, it's just a tabletop thing off to the side, and it's all very tiny. Yeah, and I think that that's part of the thing with the Lord doesn't have to do a lot of running, but the peasant has to do all sorts of running around.
I mean, basically, it's like, this is exactly the librarian versus the explorer from the first game. Librarian is very much like the Lord, and just gets to sit on his butt and read books and tell us what to do.
This takes us to the battlefield.
Yep.
And the battlefield was, for the Lord, just walking up to a kind of table. There's a board with certain figures on it. Click on it, and you're now looking from top down. As the peasant...
Yeah, it's a life-sized kind of chessboard with, it's a replica of what you have in your room, but it's life-size, yeah. The pieces are actual people. Well, not real people walking around.
But they're life-size statues.
Life-size statues. This level now, I like this level, and I like playing as the peasant on this level, but man, we had problems with this level.
We had a lot of problems. The first part was super easy. Just telling the Lord where to move his pieces to attack the statues, the opposing soldiers. No problem. Then comes the second one. And in the second one, we have now not 1, but 2 figures. And they move in tandem. If the Lord moves his piece forward, they both move forward. But the problem is now that we found out the board is still the same, but the Lord starts off in a different spot.
Yeah.
And so essentially you have to think of it as having 2 boards overlapping because 1 boulder becomes 2. You have to avoid it on both boards, essentially, to make it work. And this is where we got really, really frustrated. You couldn't see, as the Lord, what was happening. You didn't realize that you were often moving your piece, thinking that you were totally fine, but the ghost kind of friend was falling into the lava on a regular basis, and you would just start over. And you would say, Justin, what's going on? I don't understand.
Yeah, it took us a long time to realize we had to set up coordinates and be like, okay, where are you? And you're like, you're on 5-4. And you're like, no, No, I'm on like 2-1. Like, if I go left, I'm falling into the lava. It's like, okay, we have a big problem now.
Yeah. So that became a real issue. We had to move the pieces around in a way to attack the towers.
Yep.
And that, the first time, seemed okay.
Yeah,
it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
But we struggled for a very long time on attack the gates.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of things. Being offset in that way where we were looking at the board, but the pieces were in different places was an issue. Constantly having to go, move forward too. I can't. There's a boulder in front of me.
Yeah.
And also having to move them in a way so that they would actually line up with the gates. And then there was an issue of you ran out of board.
Yeah.
We got you to the end and I said, go forward too. And you couldn't because you were out of board. And then we realized that we actually had to account for your board as well.
Yeah. But I mean, and not only that, did you notice, like, so I'm not completely crazy. Did you notice that the gate is kind of lit in the Lord's one? It's like got a kind of a purplish glow to the gate. That's very off-putting as well. But it's not until you play as the peasant, you're like, oh, it's clearly those two gates at the side that you've got to go into.
Well, that's what I
but
thought.
Not for me.
But then when you told me yours was glowing, I thought, oh, maybe it's an illusion on my side.
Right.
And we actually have to get them both next to each other and through the door.
That's exactly what I thought. Yeah.
And so we did that. We got all the way through. I got you through the door, your pieces walked through, fell down, and I went, yes! Oh, no, because we're still here.
Yeah.
In which case, then, we had to continue on. So,
because we rage quit that level as well. Like, that was a different night. Because it took us about 3 days to do this, I'd say.
Then the next day, I set up a kind of spreadsheet.
That's right, yeah.
Where I overlapped our pieces so that we could see where...
And I was doing it on paper. I've got it's in this notebook. It's like I was doing it on paper and I was like, so you got the other piece. So you're trying to move 3 pieces at the same time. And my brain just couldn't compute it. And then I think the next day, I said, okay, because when I was doing it, I was like, this is wrong. That was the kind of epiphany that I had. I was like, we're doing this wrong. I'm doing this wrong as the Lord. This is not my judgment to make. You need to go. You need to tell me where to go because you've got both the pieces. Doesn't matter where I am. If I can't move, I can't move. You find another way around, and you just tell me what to do. Don't take any input from me. And that's how we solved it. You know, it's just like forget about the Lord. Just do what you got to do to get you to the other side. And we got it. We got it the first time. Like we did the soldiers, we attacked the towers, then we went through the gates. It's like boom, done. What was so hard about it? Nothing. It's easy, and that's why these puzzles are good as well. Is that they're very, very tough to understand and to solve. But after you've solved them, you're like, oh yeah, that's a piece of cake. Mm-hmm. But I was ready to kill someone with that night on that night. Like that was a really annoying puzzle. But now it's a good puzzle. I like it.
That takes us through to what is called the arena. And the arena is essentially a labyrinth where the doors, once you step on the correct spots, doors will open and you still have to find your way to the next X, which only the Lord can see.
Yeah.
And we struggled with this one for a long time, partly because...
Well, it's hard.
Yeah. But also partly because Darren didn't realize there's a way to look top down. There's a way to click. And so that you can look top down. So once I was the Lord, that was very easy because I knew about this. So that, because there was an issue of...
I found that right at the end. It's like, because you'd already fallen down the hole and I'm like, click. Oh, I can see everything now. What an idiot.
Because there was an X that we couldn't see, that you couldn't see.
There's a bunch of X's that you can't see because they're behind walls. Yeah, if you're looking...
And so we were trying to guess. And what we eventually came to as well is just the pattern of the maze. There is one that comes up far more often than the others, so we would just wait for that one to come up and memorize that one because it was much easier than trying to every time switch directions and try to figure it out anew.
And again, if they'd made like, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 10 different mazes, oh, that would be a rough one because the timing is so tight and you gotta, when you're positioned above them, you gotta, on your left, but maybe on your right, so you gotta do that, and you don't have time for mistakes in that level.
No, I think everything that involves timing in this one is fairly tight.
Yeah, for me, that was by far the tightest one. Like, there's no way. If you make a wrong turn, you're pretty much done. There was parts where when you made a wrong turn, it's like, yeah, just stand there, let it reset, because there's no way you can get around there. But a good level, and what we haven't talked about so far is, I think in every level, you see your little creepy friend, the jester, the puppet jester, just hanging around looking at you with those glowing, beady little creepy eyes. Because that was how I found that thing that you could do top down, because I wanted to click on him, and then, alright, now you can do it. But he's everywhere, and he freaks me out, man. I don't like him.
Well, get used to him, because I think he's going to be in every game.
Yeah.
He was right towards the end of the first one. We saw him a lot in this one. We'll probably see him a lot in the next one. But yeah. I think creepy work.
Oh, I mean, I love the character, but I hate him at the same time, because you're just like, okay, solving a puzzle. So, oh my god, he's right there, like, right over my shoulder.
I think, for me, it's as well a memory. It's remembering that first game, because the first game was where he came out of nowhere on the stage and was slowly creeping up to you, and if he caught up to you, you died. So I think throughout this whole game, the first playthrough, I was worried that he would come after us in some way. And he doesn't, but I'm not putting that out of the realm of possibility for the third installment.
One, yeah.
So this takes us to the incinerator.
It takes the peasant directly to the incinerator, yeah.
Yeah, the Lord is fairly safe here, but...
As usual.
But could not escape without the help of...
his loyal peasant.
Exactly. So, stuck in a room with only one glowing symbol and 6 styles, the peasant sits and waits as... And this is a point where we both turned our sound effect volume down, because the sound of the lava below you is a bit ridiculous.
It's insanely loud, yeah. But yeah, it's so loud. It's like insanely loud compared to the other sound effects in the game. Because even when we were talking to each other, we're like, okay, I'm looking at and you just gotta stop talking until, okay, tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock.
Keep in mind, this is a game where you're meant to chat, so we have our headphones on.
Yeah.
So it's blasting right into our ears.
Yeah.
So that was a bit ridiculous. But this puzzle, again, was another one that really frustrated us, but once you have it, you just have it. I think we were trying various solutions here, like trying to create the picture using all 3 dials in some way. Yeah, but it is just so much simpler than that.
Yeah.
Once we realized what was going on, once we really identified the dials by basic shape, right? There was the parallelogram, the trapezoid, the circles, the square, so that we had that, and then that kind of helped clue us into what was going on and what needed to happen.
Yeah, and the fact that the last one on my side, on your side is blank is a big clue as well.
Yeah. I think when I was lured the first time, I messed it up because I had the wrong picture. And if you have the wrong picture, then the peasant's dials are all messed up and wrong as well.
Yeah, if you get one of them. And to be fair, though, the pictures are purposely misleading. You know, it's like, it's a triangle, but it doesn't have all its sides. And it's like, yeah. Or it's got a circle in it. Is it a big circle or a small circle? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or the X is through them. It's like the X goes through the circle, but not past the edges of the circle. And it's contained in the circle. There's all these kind of minute little details that make them so similar.
Yeah, exactly.
But once you get it, it's all right. It's not my favorite puzzle of the game, for sure. I
thought it was interesting the way that it was set up. I do like that. And then that leads into the final.
It's your end game now.
It's the elevator.
Yeah.
So the elevator is a tricky bit of work. So there's the easy way to do it, where one of you gets to escape because the peasant holds open the door at the top by moving the kind of ship's wheel and holding it in place. We tried for a long time, though, to figure a way to get both of us, and that first time we just didn't. We're like, okay, let's just get out. So you got out, I got out, but we knew that the bit above the elevator with the kind of one more magical light switch, there must be something to that.
Yeah, because there's the switchboard of lights as well that had like lights that were on, lights that were off, and every time you threw one of those switches, another light lit up.
Mm-hmm. And I think I saw the one going up the elevator that you needed to hit, and you saw that there was one above the elevator shaft that you need to get.
Yeah.
So we had found those two, but
we were too short.
Yeah. And we didn't realize that there is. So for those of you that maybe have not completed the whole thing, the symbols, once you go back downstairs and you do the symbols for the incinerator room, that does partly open a door that you have to kind of click on, and that will open it up the whole way, and that gives you one more switch.
Yeah, because there's one switch in the incinerator room, and then there's 3 switches in the elevator room. And so that's 4 switches, and then there's 4 switches to find as the peasant, and 4 switches to find as the lord. And we worked out what we had to do. Like, it was quite clear that, once we light all these up, maybe we can both escape. Maybe that's the winning conditions.
Because in the first game, the ending kept saying, if only there was another way.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe there would be another way, and I don't know how long we tried to figure out an alternate way to get both of us to escape, and eventually
switching
had to
all
give
those
up.
Torches, like, off, and oh man, yeah.
So that kind of led us to this one, and I love the ending when you do finally kind of both escape, that it is called Another Way.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. But how annoying is that cutscene, though, right at the end?
Oh man. Yeah, because, like, yes!
So this is the total spoiler. This is the end.
Oh yeah, if you've not got, this is like for the 100% achievement kind of award, basically. Yeah, it's like you escape. Like we did it. High fives all around, and then
my character kind of looks at his watch, kind of looks back at the place, and goes, "You know what? I like it here," and heads back inside.
But that's the thing, and this is it. This is why we're here. Like, what is going on? Like, because it's unclear. It's like, why would you want to go back inside? B, all the doors are locked anyway behind you. Like, you can't get through, and you certainly can't get through alone. But what I think it is the guy at the other side, he's not looking at his watch. He's looking at his walkie-talkie. I think they've got the distress call for another team that's locked in, and he's going back in to rescue the other guys. Like,
I was wondering that if, for example, we have the Lord from this one and the Explorer from the first one.
That would make a lot of sense, because like one of you gets left behind. So it's like, because like you said, there's 4 guys in this one. Like in the original game, did you see 4 guys going in?
I don't think so. I thought I only saw 2.
I know there was a big snow, there was a big blizzard, so maybe you couldn't see them anyway. And then it's like, okay, so but in this one, there's 4 because you see them at the beginning. So it's like, yeah, the librarian and the explorer probably went off to a different wing of the house. They're like, you take the back, we'll take the front, kind of thing. And our guys, and we were here too, both managed to escape, but then the guy's like, the walkie-talkie's going off, one of them's still stuck inside, and the lord or the peasant or whoever it is like, well, I'll be the hero, and he's going to head back in again. That's a great way to like show that you've thought ahead, and I don't know, it's just simple but good writing.
If that's the way it works, especially if we get to see those characters, like we have to walk back through.
Oh, that'd be amazing. I'd love, even if they say,
we don't have to do anything. We just have to walk through and go, oh yeah, that's the incinerator room, and the other person going, oh yeah, this was the last room in the first one. Yeah, that would be brilliant. I would love that so much.
Yeah, because I mean, basically, they're both portcullises. Yeah, they're both like end-in portcullises for both games, and so
of course at the end of the first one you're kind of stuck in you fall into a tunnel. So I don't know how we'd get out of that. Maybe a ladder falls or something.
Maybe there's a button. Yeah, but I think, I mean, that's I don't know, I'd say that's a decent theory on what the third game will be, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I don't think there's much as far as story. We know that the lord or king in this castle was kind of mad with power.
Yeah.
Do we think that he's the same one that killed his wife and all the people from the first one?
I think so. I mean, it's the same house. I mean, he's mad. He's looking to live forever. And with the help of his jester, they supposedly have succeeded. And that's why this creepy jester ghost is like lurking around. I'm pretty sure, like you said,
that's why he lives forever. He does
live forever, but he's cursed as well. He's cursed to either live in the house as a puppet, like ghost, ugly, weird, creepy dude. But in the third episode, obviously, I'd love to see everything come full cycle and get to see the king. Or if he has achieved immortality as well. I'm pretty sure he must have. I'd like to know, though, some unanswered questions. I'd like to know whose voice that is, like in the elevator.
Well, it is the Jester, isn't it?
I don't think it's the Jester. I think it's the King. But there's no evidence for what I've just said. I just always thought that the Jester can't really speak. He laughs and cackles, and the voice is not what I would say fits that laugh. You know, it's like a different kind of voice. And so we know why the house has been built.
Well, because there are basically 2 voices, right? There's that voice, the kind of annoyed voice of the Jester, is why I always attributed that as the Jester, because the other voice is the loud, booming, kind of deep voice of the king, who is saying things like, in the battlefield, he was saying things like, my sons, take them out.
I thought that was the same guy as the stage from We Were Here. I just thought of that guy as the narrator voice, you know? He's like...
Well, I think it is the same voice, so...
He's like the Honest Trailers guy, you know, basically. I don't think he's the king, but that's just my opinion.
Oh, that could be too. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out in the next one.
Yeah, but here's a weird thing, and this is what... I've gotten into a habit of checking the stats after the game's finished.
What stats are you checking?
The global stats, like for the achievements.
Okay. Because they're only 15, I think, in this one, and you get most of them just for
20.
Okay, you get most of them just for going through the game.
Exactly, and that's the thing, right? So you've probably seen this. So
no, I'm not.
How many people do you think have 100% completed this game? Like, what percentage would you think has?
No, see, I know this already because you told me. Because we're in like the top 26 percentile or something
of
people who've made it all the way through. And
that's the Turing test,
is it?
Yeah, that's the Turing test.
Okay,
we are actually now in the top 10%. Like 10% of people have 100% of this game. How many people do you think have just completed the game? Like, what percentage would you think have just completed it without all the achievements, just got to the end?
But got to the end both times?
No, just once.
Just once?
Just finished the last chapter.
I'd say half.
Yeah, less, just under half. Like, that to me seems really odd. Like, I mean, and I think this is a thing that I'm noticing with lots of other games as well. It's quite eye-opening, because I remember when we were playing Portal, and because I never really checked the achievements. I'm not really a Chivo hunter, and I don't really care about that, but I started checking them recently just to see, like, how far have people actually got? Like, how much have they played this game? Less than half, like 46%, have just got to the end. I find that really weird. So what that means is they buy it and then they don't play it. Like less than half, like 60 odd percent have only finished chapter 1, right? So that means that 40% of the buyers have never even played this game. Like they've bought it but just not played it.
So that stat includes people who own it but have never played it?
Yeah.
Because if so, you know that our libraries are huge and full of games we haven't touched yet. So we also add into that.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So it's like the whole, it's just really interesting to see the whole Steam kind of pile of shame mechanics in action. It's like, it's real, you know? It's like people have massive libraries with untouched games, and we're not talking trash either, you know? This is a great game, but it's sitting in at 40% of the sales on Steam. It's sitting in their library untouched, and that's true for a lot of games. I've started checking the stats of all different games, and yeah, it's like tons of people buy these games but just never play them. Odd, because it's good. Play it. You've obviously played it because you're listening to this. Yeah, but I mean, I can understand less than 10% of 100% of it, because like you might not. A lot of people just don't have time. Like, I'm done. I finished it. I can say that I've done it. I haven't done it completely. Big deal.
Even us. I mean, we're quite dedicated to making this happen for the podcast, and yet we still have to work around our two different schedules.
Exactly, yeah.
And this is not a game that you can just play at any time. We have to play at the same time, and we have to play at a time where you can speak and not be interrupting other people sleeping.
Exactly, yeah. What I do find interesting about this is how many times did I say it is there? It's a cross-platform game. So it means that they've really widened the audience. So it's like, yeah, you don't have to be on PC. You don't actually, probably when you go into the lobby, you might not even be playing with people on a PC. They might be on a PlayStation or an Xbox or...
Really?
Yeah, it's a cross-platform co-op game, which is interesting. And I like the idea of that. It's pretty cool. And that's all I had to say really about that was, 10%. 10% of 100% of it. And I bet you 0.000001% have done the weapons room without turning the ship's wheel.
Well,
that should be an achievement.
Yeah. Honestly, I like the nice simple achievements there.
Yeah. But yeah, great game, and I can't wait for the third one. Gaps filled and more gaps created. Brad Dourif's in it. No, not Brad Dourif. Who's the other guy? It's not Brad Dourif, and he's not even close to Brad Dourif. Who's the guy? He's in Blue Velvet. He's one of the guys in Blue Velvet. It's not Dennis Hopper.
Dean Stockwell?
No, not him. He's like he's got like a skeleton kind of face, really sunken cheeks. He looks crazy. Curly hair. He looks a bit like the guy from The Room.
I haven't seen that movie in like 20 years, probably.
Edit all that.
Okay. Should we edit out this week's episode of Darren Asked Justin, who's that guy? It seems to be like every episode.